Hi! I never know how to start and I never know how to end. I am Joelle, and today I just have like a lot of extra time to do things that I want to do because my daughter's being watched. So I'm going to talk about books I have either read, want to read, or am curious why no one else has really ever talked about them, either on YouTube or just in general. So enjoy! Okay, so I'm just going to get this one out of the way because I'm reading these books because it's about that Halloween time, and I like to get into that zone of like scary, horror, sci-fi, just creepy things around this time. So it's September and into October I'm going to be reading creepy stories. So I'll do reviews about them, but I want to talk about what I'm reading and I guess what to look forward to. So this one is the one I'm reading and it's by K.R. Alexander, and it's called Scare Me. This, just like the actual cover itself, kind of drew me in. Just the premise, and that's all I'm gonna say is, so this is a kid's book, but for me, I'm scared reading this, so I wouldn't really say it's a kid's book, but it's in children's books for kids to read. So it's like R.L. Stine kind of creepy horror for kids. So the main character, Kevin, and his two friends compete in like a haunted house where like this mansion gets divided into four. So there's 4 teams, and they each get to make a whole room or a whole floor into their own kind of creepy haunted house. So you don't really get any other premise other than that the house is going to be the one actually pulling the strings for this haunted house year. I'm really loving it. It's one of those books that you can't put down, but with scary stories for me, I can't read them all in one day. Like Coraline was the same size pretty much, and I had to put it down because they're too scary. I can't read scary books in one day because then that's all I'm thinking about, and then I see a shadow in the corner and I'm like, what is that? So I can't do that for myself. Movies are different. Books are like a whole nother level for me because it's like all in your imagination and you see everything in your own mind, how you would be the most terrified of something, pretty much. So this next one, okay, so the Radium Girls, there's a show now on Amazon called Radioactive or something. I don't remember the name of the show. Anyway, so there's a show on Amazon, I think called Radioactive. I can't remember. The show is based off of the woman who created radium and what she thought it would do and what she would have assumed was going to be this great invention and this great thing for everybody, even like curing cancer. Radium Girls is about the side effects of what radium did to women in the shops that made watches and made all the things that radium was used for after the woman created it. Like, this is why I'm so surprised people don't know about it. I remember I learned it in history, and it was just a little small part in history, but it was something that really freaked me out. So these women were getting cancer, and they were getting sores in their mouths, they were getting them on their hands, they were getting really sick, and it wasn't until a while after that these doctors and investigators found out that it was all because of radium. These women didn't know that radium was dangerous and was poisonous, and they didn't have protective gear on. They weren't wearing anything to protect themselves from using radium to put into watches. They would like dip their brush in their mouth and then dip it in the radium and then put it on the watch and then dip it in their mouth again. They didn't know that they were ingesting it. These women were like glorified because of what they were doing. Everyone thought it was really cool how they had this job and they got to work with it. So when they would go to parties, some of these women would grab a little bit of radium, put it on their lips or eyes, so they would glow in the dark. And they didn't realize what they were putting on their bodies. So when I found this book, I was really excited to know more about what these women went through, and they have some pictures and some evidence of what these women look like before and after to show how dramatic and how it affected people. More people probably know about it now. Every time I mention it to someone, people are like, what? No, I've never heard of that. And it was a big deal. So the fact that people didn't even know this happened I just felt like I needed to like be a historian and tell them everything I knew about this situation. And now that there's a book, I recommend it. I haven't read it yet, and it is on my list. I am so excited to read it. You know when you have to be like in the right mood to read something? I'm not in that right mood to read that book. So anyway, the second to last book I'm going to talk about is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So you have the two main characters, and it's Evelyn Hardcastle and Aidan Bishop. And Aidan Bishop is the man who I don't even know what's bringing him back, but this thing is telling him that he has 8 people and 8 experiences and 8 tries to find out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. I've read like maybe the first 2 chapters in this. It is very confusing because it starts right off with him in somebody else's body experiencing it happening. And I know like the minute I pick this up, I'm like, I'm going to want to read this, but it is going to be very intense, and it's going to be one of those books you have to keep track of who's who and what's happening, because it's a mystery. You're trying to find out who it is, and all these people that Aidan Bishop is going into to play them pretty much. He's like possessing them and becoming them in those 8 tries, and he gets to become a different person every time. And in those stages, each of those people have either been a witness or have something to do with her death. So you and him have to pinpoint and figure out what those people have to do with Evelyn Hardcastle's death. I thought this would be a great challenging read because I normally don't like something so complicated, but for being a mystery, I think this is going to be a great experience, and it's something where you have not only his point of view, but you have to see his point of view and other people's point of views, which is going to be incredibly crazy, but I'm excited to read it. I love retellings of fairy tales and crazy horror sides of characters that you didn't see, like in a Disney version of some kind of fantasy movie. I like that. I like adapting a story to be something that you haven't always thought of it that way. So this story is Straight On Till Morning, which is a retelling of Peter Pan. What the premise of the story is that Wendy at 16 is kind of getting more depressed with the life that her parents are wanting her to live. She doesn't really see her brothers anymore, and she's not happy with where she is, and she misses Neverland. She wants to go back, and she kind of has this idea like, was it even real? Did I actually experience it? Was this something that happened? And if it did, can I go back? So she sneaks on a pirate ship to go to Neverland, and everything isn't really the way it was originally for her in her mind. Like, I don't know everything about it, but all I know is that it's a retelling in Wendy's perspective. Everything's going to be completely different than what we saw and what we thought. It's like a dream for me to be able to reread something I was so in love with as a kid, and it's going to be a completely different experience. It's not going to be the same at all. So this one, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it, and that might be because it's not good, or that might be because people don't even know it exists. But Straight On Till Morning is a book I got because I love retellings, and this is probably going to be an amazing retelling. My last book that I'm going to talk about is one that I have read. Now, I read the first one, not the second one, and this is just a 2-book series. It is called Eden Divided, and I got this at the dollar store. I don't know if this was meant to be there, but it was at the dollar store. I didn't even know this at the time, but the author's name is my name, and I was like geeking out and fangirling. I was like, oh my god, my name's on a book. But it was fun because I don't really see people with my name a lot, so I was excited to just naturally pick up a book and then find out, like, I think it was maybe a few minutes later that the author like had my name, so I was excited. It's a good book, and I did look at the reviews. I found a lot of people didn't like it, but when you go into a book with any expectations, I feel like you're always going to be disappointed at some point. And I think the way that this author wrote, some people probably didn't like it, but I did. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those books that I didn't want to stop reading because I wanted to figure out what was happening. I think I read this book in like 2 days. And there's one more book, and it's called Eden Conquered. I haven't read it yet. I'm really excited to. I've read maybe like 5 chapters, but I realized that if I read it so fast then it would end. I'm that kind of person that if I finish a series, it makes me really sad, because even if I reread the book series again, it's never going to be the same. I already know how things are going to turn out for certain characters and different experiences, and it's like, oh, just you wait, and then I just like, I can't. Anyway, I'm excited to finish it, but also I'm very eager I'm not super eager to finish it because I don't want it to end. So the two main characters are Karis and Andreas, and they're twins. They were born at the same time, and they're also royalty. So their father and their mother are like the king and queen of their area. The only thing I'm going to really go into detail is that everything is just like twisted, and it's one of those books that feels like dystopian utopia, where they keep telling everybody everything's perfect, and you feel like everything's perfect, but it's not. So the royal people on the top, I looked at their city kind of like a pyramid, just like the lower and lower you go, the less and less you get, pretty much. So the top of the city is that's just how I imagined it. So the top of the city, you have Karis and her brother Andreas, and they have all the power. They have these huge windmills who take power and give it to the city. But the higher up you are, the more you get. The lower you are, the less you get. So people up at the top, people who are royalty, people who are guards, people that have higher duties in the city have more power and have like unlimited amount that they can spend. And the lower you are, like Karis's friend, she and her dad sometimes donated their power, like their electricity, to other people lower in the city because they didn't have any more. And it was such a big flaw that just felt so wrong. Like you have the ability to have everyone in your city feel free, and it didn't. So it was just one of those things in the book that, okay, so everything isn't perfect here. And you already kind of know this because Karis is treated very differently from her brother. I was very eager to see the relationship in this, and it worked really well. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking because I'm gonna get too deep into this book. This is one of those books that a lot of people didn't really like. I liked. I'm excited to share it with everyone because, again, people don't talk about it. So please pick this one up. This was one of those books I really liked. There wasn't romance in it, really. There wasn't a lot of stupid drama, in my opinion. It was one of those very straightforward things where you enjoy the character development for both Andreas and Karis, and it goes completely in different directions than you think it's gonna go. So enjoy. I'm excited. This was the last book I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I just kind of felt like talking about books I was excited about. I have time to do it, and if anything, it's gonna motivate me to read them, because some of them I have just been procrastinating on. It's been funky. It's been really funky lately, so I'm finally getting into reading again. And I think horror is like the perfect type of genre for me to like get back into it, because it's not too much, but at the same time you're really eager to know what the heck is going on. So stay tuned for my horror story recaps on all the books I'm gonna read between now and the end of October. Thank you so much for literally letting me rant for however many minutes. I'll see you next time. Bye.